Hi, I'm Joanne Weiler, and I am the host for this Shine in 2016. And I'm so thrilled that you're here in the series and with us today. And I just want to remind you that on the future series, you're welcome to tune it in any time, and also to let you know that if you decide you want to get the full series, all of the proceeds for that will go to Dress for Success, which helps women get ahead in businesses setting up their lives in a new sustainable career. So anyways, over the next 10 weeks, I'll be interviewing 10 specialists in all aspects of whole health. So one session leads to the next, starting from the inside out. And so the idea is actually to give you energy like you've never known before, and energy that will sustain you all through the year. So as you go along the process, I'd really recommend you write down a few things. If you get one or two things that are new to you each session, you can start to incorporate them in your regular routines and create change one step at a time. And I've been getting some emails from people who are doing this as a project with their partner or with their friends. And that's a great idea too, because it'll help you stay on track and kind of stimulate the information that you really want to incorporate. And yeah, I just want to say thank you for being here today. I've got people that have emailed and some questions, and we'll be going to those questions. You can also ask questions at the latter part of the webinar today. And so I want you to think about, what do you imagine is going to be true for you when you've got more energy in your life? So energy in a way that you're connected to better health habits, energy in a way that you're connected to your values and your passion. So you're really living a values-driven life in all aspects. And so those are some of the topics that we'll be getting to. But today I'm so excited because we've got Diana Steele here, and she's a registered dietitian. She's also the nutritionist for Global TV. And so you may have already heard from her before, seen her on TV or in the newspaper. And she's going to tell you how you can actually really make a few changes in your eating habits that are going to give you energy like you've never known before. So I just want to welcome Diana to the series. Thank you so much. Just reminding you also that all of the speakers that we've got through the series are volunteering their time to make this happen. And I'm hoping that this will create kind of a global, wave of good energy through Vancouver and also in other parts of the world. Like, for instance, the UK. We've got some people that are registered from the UK and India and Mexico. So I'm hoping that'll spread out too as this actually grows in a kind of momentum of good energy. So anyways, I'm thrilled to welcome Diana Steele. Diana, come on, it's nice to have you in the call.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Hi, everybody.
Great. And I just, I'm wondering, can you tell me a little bit about why did you become a dietitian?
Well, I actually went to university with the intention of being a doctor. And after getting into university and seeing how challenging it was and learning about the requirements of 8 years of university and how hard you're working once you've finished university, and I thought, I really want to have a family. I need balance in my life. I don't see myself going to school for 8 years and then a couple more years to specialize and then having a family. And I've always been passionate about nutrition and food. And so as I was taking the courses in pre-med, I started to take some nutrition courses and realized, wow, this is way more up my alley. And along those lines, I also thought, maybe physio, but nutrition was the thing for me, because I knew that I wasn't about to work in a hospital setting, and I didn't think I wanted to work with people that were injured all the time, like, physios were. I really wanted to be in health promotion and helping people have energy and live a good life now, and help them deal with issues if they come up. But that health promotion side of things, where you're really just focusing on being healthy now, was really appealing to me. And there's so many different ways and avenues that you can work in this sort of field. So, from media to one-on-one counseling where you get that really close interpersonal connection, as well as speaking engagements at businesses where you get to be sort of on stage and motivating groups, and then being able to sit in my office and do some writing, and then recipe development because I love to cook. Cooking is my passion, it's my hobby. People always say, why don't you do catering? And I said, oh, because then it would take away from my passion. I just want it to be fun for me and feed my family and my friends. So it got to include so many things in my life that I enjoy. So dietetics was the way to go.
Yeah, and it's so true. Just, eating, making those choices in what we eat is going to make a huge difference to the energy level we have. And I know you've got this philosophy or 7 steps for energy. I'm dying to hear a little bit about that. Maybe you can tell us a bit about that.
Sure. So the 7 steps to eating for energy relate to the many factors that affect our energy. And one of the most important factors has to do with how often we're eating and how we maintain our blood sugar levels. So your blood sugar levels are affected by the amount of food that you're eating, the timing of your meals, and what types of foods that you're eating. And so most importantly, what I encourage people to look at is how often they're eating. So are you waking up in the morning and eating breakfast within an hour or two of waking? And then how often do you eat throughout the rest of the day? If you have a really long gap, say 5 or 6 hours, where you haven't eaten any food, but you're still at work or you're still busy doing things, running the household, your body is still using fuel. But if you haven't eaten that fuel, your body is going to be using it from whatever you have stored. But in those early hours of starvation or early hours where your blood sugar levels have dropped, your energy just comes down and your body starts to use your protein for fuel. And protein comes from muscle. And so when you're using that muscle for fuel, you're actually shrinking your muscle mass, which lowers your metabolism. And so that can make it easier for you to store your food as fat at the next meal. So what we want to do is keep a consistent level of energy by eating throughout the day. So having breakfast and then having a snack and then having lunch and then having a snack, trying to space them out by about 3 to 4 hours during the day and not waiting 5 or 6 hours. That will keep your energy levels up. Your body will be trained to know that there's a constant supply of fuel available. So it doesn't have to hoard things and store it as fat. It can use what's available right away. You're going to preserve your muscle mass, so you're not using it for energy, which keeps your metabolism up, which means that you're going to have an easier time maintaining a healthy body weight. And it controls your appetite. If you wait too long to eat, you get very hungry. And when you're very hungry, you make wrong choices. And so if you're catching yourself before you get to that point of starvation, then you're much more inclined to make a healthy choice. So you'd grab that apple for your snack and you'd have the salad and the piece of chicken on top that you brought for your lunch, that kind of thing. So timing and consistency is the really important factor.
And as you're talking about that too, you're talking about having like an apple, say, I've heard some people say like have an apple with like some peanut butter, some protein with it. Can you talk about how pairing works in food that we?
Yes. And so that's actually the next step to eating for energy, is really making sure that your blood sugar levels are staying constant throughout that time that you're eating consistently. When you're eating, carbohydrate foods that are digested so quickly and efficiently, an apple or a banana, we can break that down into sugar and it will go into our bloodstream quite rapidly and give us a short-term supply of energy. But our bodies are trained when your blood sugar levels go up to then release insulin, and insulin will take that sugar and bring it into your cells so they can use it, and your blood sugar levels fall again and you get hungry again. So how do you get that blood sugar level to stay consistent? Adding protein. And so the protein, when you're saying, an apple with some nuts, for example, the protein acts like an anchor for your carbohydrate energy. So it will help it, first of all, it will slow the absorption of carbohydrates. So your blood sugars don't spike when you have a carbohydrate. They'll just go up nice and gradually. And then they'll anchor it. So it'll take longer for that blood sugar level it'll stay more consistent throughout. So I'll give you an example. If you had for breakfast a bagel, just a bagel and a glass of juice, both of those are carbohydrates. So carbohydrates are your grain products, so bread, cereal, rice, granola bars, crackers, cookies, potato, or your fruits and vegetables. They are purely carbohydrates as well. So banana, grapes, oranges, apples, Remember, the term carbohydrate is an umbrella term. It includes fibers, starches, and sugars. And so the carbohydrate foods are an excellent source of energy, and we need to have them, but we want them to be long lasting. And because we digest them so quickly, having just the bagel and the orange juice for breakfast will give us that energy increase, but then our blood sugar levels are going to go down again because we're going to release insulin. So put peanut butter on your bagel, or have a poached egg on top of half a bagel, and that will give you a little bit of protein. Or if you're having, for example, fruit, say fruit salad for breakfast, top it with some Greek yogurt. The Greek yogurt will give you the protein, and your blood sugar levels will be more constant. So that will take a little bit longer to digest. Your blood sugar levels will then rise more gradually and maintain. And then, 3 hours later, you're thinking, okay, I'm starting to get hungry now. I should have my snack. If you're a very active person, you could easily do a 2 food group snack. So that could be a yogurt and a piece of fruit to get that combination of protein and carbs. Or it could be some dried apricots and nuts. So again, carbs and protein. Or if you're just needing a little bit of a snack to top up your energy, and your lunch is coming in an hour or two, depending on your schedule, you might just choose to have a pear, and then you'll have your lunch later on. And again, lunch should have carbohydrates and protein. So you would want to do, a turkey sandwich, or you would want to have maybe a big salad with some chickpeas on top. The chickpeas would be the protein. So when we talk about protein foods, it's meat, fish, and poultry, beans, lentils, and chickpeas, eggs, nuts and seeds, so including edamame beans would be the beans, and nuts would be, walnuts or whatever. And then also milk, yogurt, and cheese have protein. So they also are considered one of your protein foods. So always thinking when you're planning your meals, especially, so breakfast, lunch, and dinner, do I have a source of carbohydrates, and where is the protein in there? And so your number one step to eating for energy is that timing, eating every 3 hours, and then trying to have proteins with your carbohydrates.
So can you explain then, there's been all this hype about no carbs, don't eat carbs, the carbs are bad. Carbs. Can you explain, is that true?
No, we need to have carbohydrates, absolutely, but we don't need to have a whole bunch of carbohydrates coming from sugar sweetened beverages and chocolate bars and candy and jujubes and white refined grains that have no nutritional value. We want our carbs to count. So they need to come with nutrients. So they're not empty calories, they are calories that are giving us the vitamins and minerals and fiber that we need. If we go and eliminate a whole food group, say you cut out all your grain products, well, with that, you're also cutting out an excellent source of fiber, magnesium, which a lot of us are low in, all your B vitamins, and a lot of grain products are fortified with iron. And so you're really cutting out a good source of nutrition. Men need 38 grams of fiber, and women need 25 grams of fiber per day. And just to give you an idea, a slice of white bread will give you maybe half a gram of fiber, but a slice of, say, Silver Hills squirrely bread will give you 5 grams of fiber. So you can easily, in a sandwich with 2 slices of Silver Hills bread, get 10 grams of fiber. You're almost halfway to your fiber intake. But if you were counting only on your fruits and vegetables, well, the highest fiber fruit is raspberries. You'll get 4 grams of fiber in half a cup of raspberries. It's difficult to get enough if you're not getting both the whole grains and the fruits and vegetables, as well as some legumes in there, some lentils and beans and nuts and seeds. So I think it's really important to get the carbohydrates from a mixture of sources. We get carbs from our fruits and vegetables, those grain products, and also there's carbohydrate in dairy. Lactose is the sugar that's in dairy. So we have many different ways of getting it. We don't have to eat 7 or 8 servings of grain products. You can absolutely cut those down, but I wouldn't, especially if you're active, I wouldn't eliminate grain products or eliminate carbs from your diet, because then you're just using fat and protein for fuel, and your muscles use carbohydrates better for fuel. So it's much more efficient.
So, I just actually, it's making me think that when I'm thinking about all the bad carbs I might have had, I'll admit to it, over Christmas, and we're all kind of coming off holiday season, and, just a lot of shortbread and things like that we normally wouldn't eat, and more chocolate and things like that. What's the impact to our health, and how do we get out of that?
Yeah, when we're having those, I think that my main rule is 80-20 rule. So I don't think that you need to eliminate all of those things altogether, especially, over the holidays or for special occasions. If you can encourage yourself to make healthy food choices about 80% of the time, it's okay to have not so healthy food choices 20% of the time. So it's not about eliminating all of those or never having them, but certainly if you're schedule is a little bit inconsistent, especially over the holidays, entertaining people, and there's lots of temptations around, it makes it a lot easier for you to go for those foods. And so if you're really trying to be successful with your plan right now, there are certain things that you can do to encourage yourself to make better choices. So one would be to make those tempting foods less available. So, if you have chocolate hiding around, go put it in the deep freeze, in the garage maybe. So don't leave it on the counter, because then you're going to see that. Also, eating consistently will make sure that you don't get to that point where you have those cravings. And so you're able to overcome that and go to the healthy food first, rather than letting the craving take over and you end up eating the junky food. And I think encouraging yourself with positive reinforcement, rather than saying, oh, I can't live without chocolate, and challenge yourself to say, okay, well, you know what? I can have chocolate if I want it. I wonder if, when I feel my craving, if I could just hold off for 20 minutes or 30 minutes and see if that craving goes away, maybe it will. And the more often that I call it riding the urge curve, the more often you can delay and distract or substitute, the easier it is to overcome your craving. And it doesn't end up being something that comes up in your life all the time. It's more just part of the holidays. And, you give yourself the freedom to indulge at times, and then you get back to your healthy eating. But try not to make it all or none. If you,
I
yeah,
I
go
like
ahead.
what you're saying about, the fighting the urge, right? And also earlier you were saying about the dip, right? So if you have that sugar, that you're going to have that dip, and then that's going to pull you back into the craving of more of those empty calories again, that just put you on this,
Roller coaster.
cycle.
Yeah.
But something else I've heard is about probiotics and the difference that that can make. Can you talk about that, sort of, getting back into health now, and us all having this commitment now to be healthier and live more energetically? What kind of difference will probiotics give us?
Well, I think it's important to recognize where probiotics are going to go. And so 70% of our immune system is located in our gastrointestinal tract, our GI tract. And these probiotics that people are consuming are going into the GI tract to help create a healthy environment. So the purpose of taking a probiotic would be to help create a good environment for your own natural bacterial flora to flourish. So if you've had antibiotics, which has killed some of your good bacteria, or if you've been ill, or if you've had diarrhea, something that may have been flushing out, or if you've done a cleanse, hope you haven't, with all those laxatives and things,
Yeah.
they flush out all those good bacteria. And so as a result, you kind of need to create a better environment for them to grow back again. Otherwise, yeasts take over, and other things, pathogenic bacteria that like different environments will take over. So taking a probiotic will help neutralize that environment, or create a better environment for your good bacteria to flourish again. If you stop taking the probiotic, they don't colonize your colon, so they'll just get flushed out eventually, and your own bacteria will take over. And for a healthy gut, then all you're trying to do is maintain that healthy environment for them. And to do that, you eat something called prebiotics. And prebiotics are sources of fiber that the bacteria eat as fuel. And so things like inulin and whole grains, for example, and fruits and vegetables, that fiber goes down to our colon and is digested and fermented by the good bacteria, and help to produce good vitamins and all kinds of nutrients that are helpful for the health of our gut. And then our good bacteria also help improve the gut lining and the mucosal lining, which will act like a barrier against those live bacteria, or the pathogenic bacteria, so helping us fight infection. So it's all about gut health. And if you have a healthy gut, you're more inclined to fight off those infections. So I do recommend probiotics for the flu season, if you're just about to go away, or if you've had any of those illnesses like diarrhea, or you've been on antibiotics. Those are really good times to take probiotics. Also, people with ulcerative colitis or irritable bowel syndrome, taking high doses of probiotics has been shown to reduce symptoms significantly. So I'm talking like 50 billion live cells for people with ulcerative colitis. And there are certain bacteria that are strain specific. Well, each strain has a different role. So the more we research, the more we learn that certain types of bacteria have different functions. So some are for immune system, and some are for reducing diarrhea and that kind of thing. The amount of bacteria that is in a regular yogurt that's not considered a probiotic, those are just the bacteria that create the yogurt, but they don't necessarily survive the transit through the gut to our colon. They'll probably be killed off with the acidity of our stomach. So the probiotic yogurts, those ones have a type of bacteria that has been shown to resist the acid and make it to our colon alive. And that's where they start to have a beneficial effect.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, actually. And so today there's also so much information about the brain being whole body, like, including the stomach. And so, taking care of the stomach with probiotics sounds like a great idea. Thanks for that. Yeah. And, what about the immune system and boosting that with, vitamin C and all of that, zinc and beta carotene and that kind of stuff? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so there are many nutrients that improve our health, and I'm not a big proponent of taking supplements. I always think it's much better to go for food first. The nutrients that are really involved in our immune system are vitamin C. So you can get that from eating your citrus fruits, and kiwi and strawberries and papaya. Even broccoli has vitamin C in it. So if you're eating your minimum 7 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables in a day, you're going to easily get 500% of your vitamin C intake for the day. So remember, a serving for fruits and vegetables is half a cup. And so if you can aim for at least 3.5 to 4 cups of fruits and vegetables every day, you're going to get your vitamin C, no problem. And then with that, the beta carotene, it's from those orange vegetables and fruits. So having a source of orange vegetable every day, whether it's carrots or squash, sweet potatoes, butternut squash soup, all of those are great sources, and they will help boost your immune system. And then zinc is a very important nutrient, not only for wound healing, but also for our immune function and killing off those pathogenic bacteria. And zinc comes from, well, oysters, a really good source, but also meat, fish, and poultry and yogurt.
Also good for your sex life, apparently.
Oh, very good. So there you go. You should eat all of those things. Yes, the
we'll be talking about that later.
Yeah. That's true, the aphrodisiac side of it. And then also selenium. And selenium comes from Brazil nuts and other nuts as well. And it's a very potent antioxidant that we can get through food. So, really, if you're eating a balanced diet and trying to get foods from all of the food groups, you're not eliminating anything in particular, it's pretty easy to boost your nutrient intake. The challenge comes in terms of immune function when you're skipping meals, because that's your feeding opportunity where you have the chance to get those nutrients. And so if you skip breakfast or you skip a lunch, you've skipped that opportunity to eat fruits and vegetables, to get some nuts in there, to maybe have some fish with omega-3s in it. And so then you have to kind of play catch up. And if your meal included only, something white and refined, say you had, baguette for lunch, or baguette and Nutella or something like that, or just
Ouch.
Krispies and milk or something that really wasn't that whole and full of nutrients, then you're sort of giving yourself the calories without the vitamins that go with it. And that's when people run into challenges. So we want our foods to be as whole as possible, as unprocessed as possible, and to give us the biggest bang for their buck. So we don't have to eat a ton of calories to get all the vitamins and minerals that we need.
Okay, that makes sense. And so you're kind of triggering me to think about the question around should we have a Vitamix kind of blender, or should we have a juicer? What would you recommend? Because if we couldn't afford to buy both, or what would you recommend is the most important to have in terms of getting fruit and vegetables into your diet?
Something like a Vitamix, hands down, because a juicer takes out all the fiber. And that fiber is what your gut bacteria need to eat, right? And they help to improve the fiber helps to brush off all of those dead cells in your gut and improve absorption. It helps to cleanse us and remove waste from our bodies and get rid of those toxins. It's our natural way of cleansing. And so when you don't eat that fiber, you're just going to get the sugar and the vitamins from your fruits or vegetables. So lots of calories in a small little package with no fiber. So you're still going to feel hungry after. Whereas if you had the Vitamix or a blender that blends in the pulp and the fiber from your fruits and vegetables, you will feel more full and satisfied. So it's more like a meal. You'll consume less. So you won't be eating the equivalent of 7 or 8 fruits and vegetables in your cup. You'll be having, only 3 or 4. So it's really a more reasonable portion size, and you get the benefit of the fiber in there.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm just thinking about the stomach and what you were saying before about the bowel and the whole thing. So I just also was wondering, since you're talking about, juicing is not as good as Vitamix, for instance. What about these juice cleanses that people, there's just all this fad about cleansing and stuff. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, actually, it's interesting. The juice cleansing really is derived from a study that was done in rats where they were trying to assess the detoxification enzymes in the liver of these rats. And the only way they could see if the levels of the enzymes increased by eating fruits and vegetables was to get these rats to eat the fruits and vegetables. But of course, rats aren't going to go willingly eat fruits and vegetables. So they juiced the fruits and vegetables and put them in their water. So that was their only source of nutrition. And so these rats ate these pureed juices from the fruits and vegetables, and they saw that the liver detoxification enzymes went up. And so they posted this in their study, and people jumped on that saying, oh, well, juicing, that must be, we have to juice them. But in fact, you get the exact same benefit of an increase in detoxification enzymes by eating the whole fruit or vegetable. It does not have to be juiced. And there were only certain vegetables and fruit that were used in that study. Actually, they were mostly vegetables. And so it was, the celery and cucumber and apple and beet, I think, that were used. And so those ones became the most popular in juices as being those increase in the detoxification enzymes. But a lot of fruits and all the fruits and vegetables will have some sort of benefit in doing that, and you don't have to juice it, and you don't have to eliminate all the other foods in order to see that increase either. You can still eat a balanced diet as well as eating the fruits and vegetables. So, but it's a convenient way for people to get their servings of fruits and vegetables. So I can see the draw. I mean, juicing is becoming a very big movement, really. People have started buying, $10 juices, and they're living on them. And it's an expensive way of life for sure, but at least you're getting some of the nutrients that, if you weren't eating fruits and vegetables before and now you started having these juices, fantastic. But I still believe that you need to have that fiber in there, and you need to have a balanced diet. So I'm not a big believer in cleanses where you don't eat food or you don't eat enough protein. I think that balance is really important. But at least, the cleanses where they say you don't eat anything and you just take all of these laxatives, those are worse because your body's going to use your muscle for fuel. So you break down your most metabolically active tissue, and then when you start eating again, you gain weight, usually 110% of the weight you lost.
Yeah, I know. And I see that actually in clients, right, that kind of go on these processes, want to lose weight fast, and they get onto some kind of fad thing, and then they lose, but they actually gain more. And so steadily increasing. So it's, just that's making small changes and keeping that constancy that you're talking about in changing the diet. And, can you talk a little bit about why tracking helps, why it's good to kind of keep track of what you're eating, and so you actually see it. So there's all these free apps like MyFitnessPal and things like that you can actually track what you're eating, so you know you are getting the calories and the nutrition that you need.
Yeah, well, research has been done with people that have done food records, and just writing it down yourself, you are more aware. But putting it into an app, people tend to record things longer. So one if you're just writing it down for yourself, you're more inclined to be accountable to yourself. And if you're sending it to a dietitian, you're even more accountable. But if you don't have that dietitian or that other person to be accountable to, the app sort of gives you someone to be accountable to, and it keeps it on record and you can refer back to it. And so the research has shown that people who track their food on an app tend to record for longer and have more success with their weight loss plan. So I do recommend it for people if they want to start a program and see how they're doing, to be able to record it, but also knowing a few things to look for in there. I want people to be able to see the types of foods, not just their calories and not just their proteins and fats and carbs. I want people to be able to look at it and go, okay, so I am actually eating whole foods, or have a look and say, okay, how many servings of fruits and vegetables did I get today? Because you should be able to translate this into normal eating and just looking at your plate and saying, okay, yes, I have the right amount of food on my plate for me. And I don't need an app to be able to tell me that. And so I have a visual for people that if you look at your plate and you cut it in half, you want half of your plate to be covered with vegetables or fruit, ideally vegetables at lunch and dinner. And then you have a quarter of it would be your starch and a quarter of it would be your protein. And that starch portion would be a whole grain. So whether it's quinoa as a side, or maybe it's a potato or a sweet potato in there. But trying to give yourself that visual will force you to eat more vegetables and maybe reduce the size of your grain portion or your protein portion. And then you don't need the app to really track that, because you go, okay, well, that's the right balance for my meal. And then, okay, I've had my snack and I know I need to have at least a fruit or a vegetable at that as well to get my 7 or 8 servings. And so it can be more consistent. So then handwriting that would be fine as well.
Great, that makes a lot of sense. You know, and talking about portion control, I've heard too that, you know, measuring your palm kind of thing, and that should be the size of the protein that you have at a meal.
Yeah, so portion control, I mean, it varies for the person. So, you know, someone who is a lot more active would probably need to eat more food than the other person. And I used to work with, way back when, the Vancouver Grizzlies. And I remember seeing one of the Grizzlies come in for some nutrition counseling, and we were working on weight management. I always used to use the palm of my hand as a measurement for protein. And I looked at his palm, and he had like the equivalent of 4 of my palms in his palm. So I'm like, okay, we have to come to a new measure. So the deck of cards was 1 serving, and for him, we would just have the whole box of cards. But so yeah, portion size is relevant, and I think to be able to look at your food. So I'm really focused on, you know, can you sit down and put your food on a plate and eat from your plate? And you can visually account for all the food that you're eating. We're all in such a rush. Often we're, you know, grabbing a bite of this and a bite of that on the fly, or even when you're cooking, you know, cut a little bit of chicken before you put it on the plates, and then you have a few bites of this, cheese and crackers. Suddenly you've eaten a mini meal before you sat down to dinner. Had you put the food on your plate and been able to visually account for it, you'll probably adjust by having a little bit less for dinner. And I always tell my clients that are looking at portion sizes, you know, serve yourself less in the first place. That way you can always go back for more, but we tend to finish what's on our plate. It just, for some reason, a lot of people are still in that mindset. And so you don't want to waste it. So if you just put a little bit less on your plate, you might find that you're satisfied beforehand. And then, of course, using smaller bowls and plates. So, you know, instead of the big cereal bowl, you would have a smaller cereal bowl. And instead of the massive platter like you might get at one of the fast food restaurants, you know, use a smaller plate and those kinds of things. Even buying things in smaller packages. You know, when you buy the supersized cereal, you tend to pour yourself more. But if you have a small box of cereal, you'll probably pour less. And so, you know, buying smaller containers, using smaller dishes, and maybe pull out your measuring cup and just see how much pasta am I actually eating. You know, if I only want to have 3 or 4 grain servings in my day, and I've just put 3 cups of pasta on my plate, well, 3 cups of pasta is 6 grain servings already, and that's 1 meal. So that will give you an idea that, okay, well, maybe I'm getting more pasta than I should on my plate, and I don't have room for half of my plate to be vegetables. I should reduce the pasta, add the vegetables, and add a little bit of protein in there.
Great. And so portion control and depending on how much exercise we're actually getting, what we put in and what we're putting out, kind of balancing that. That makes sense.
And,
And
really listening to your body and knowing when you're hungry and when you're full. And we often ignore those cues. And so trying to allow your brain to get back into sync with your body. And first it starts by eating more frequently, but eventually you'll start to realize that about 3 hours after breakfast, you're going, I could actually have my snack now. I'm starting to get hungry. But instead of ignoring that, you want to give in to that and say, okay, my brain's just told me I'm hungry. I'm starting to think about food. I'm going to have my morning snack that I hopefully brought with me to work, right? And so then you have that snack, and then you stop. Or at lunch when you're eating and you're eating, nice and slowly and chewing, and you brought this massive salad, and you go, you know what? I'm feeling kind of satisfied right now. I don't feel like I need to eat all of this at the moment. So I'm going to stop here and save the rest for later. And that's really listening to your body as well to say, it's good to stop when you're satisfied, not when we're stuffed.
so I just want to ask you, like, say somebody is kind of, maybe you've had a really busy day ahead and it's a day I've just got to bring on my best energy. Okay. What would you have for breakfast?
Well, it depends on if you have a workout before or after that. So for me, if I was going to go for a run and I want my good energy for that, I would have about an hour and a half before a bowl of oatmeal with walnuts and raisins in it, probably some cinnamon and milk. And that's going to last me. It's going to be a nice source of carbohydrates and really a good fuel. If it's, post workout and I'm, prepping myself for the day, making breakfast for the family and whatnot, I'll probably have a scrambled egg, either half or a whole piece of toast, depending on who else is eating. I sometimes share a piece, and some berries, so strawberries or raspberries on the plate. So I've got my carbohydrate from the grain and the fruit, and I also have my egg, which is my protein in there. And that kind of meal lasts me for 3 hours, and it's really well and nice and clean. It's not really heavy. The egg, is an excellent source of protein, very high quality protein. And
And
it's
that
quick.
is it true that the protein, if you have a protein after your workout, your body will continue to rev at a higher rate, or the metabolism
So the
works?
protein's going to help you repair your tissues and repair your muscle and build muscle mass. And so, especially after a strength workout, getting 20 grams of protein is what's recommended to help build muscle. But in that recovery period after exercise, we want some carbohydrates as well as some protein. And certainly after you work out, your metabolism is already going to be revved. And so people who work out in the morning tend to have a higher metabolic rate for the rest of the day, regardless of what you're eating. But by fueling your body, you're going to continue that on.
Good. Okay, great. And you mentioned cinnamon, by the way, earlier. Can you just talk a little bit about the power of cinnamon? Because I've heard that too.
Yeah, so cinnamon has been shown to help regulate blood sugar levels, as well as it imparts a bit of a sweet taste. So instead of using sugar in your food, you can add the cinnamon for flavor. And we are all trying to reduce our sugar intake. The World Health Organization has made the statement, and now the new healthy eating guidelines from the US have also indicated no more than 10% of our total calories should be coming from added sugars. And so any way that you can reduce your sugar intake is great. And so one of those ways is by adding spices, so cinnamon and nutmeg, vanilla, those kinds of things, as well as getting rid of any sort of sugar sweetened beverage. We shouldn't have more than 50 grams of sugar in a day. And when you look at, a can of Coke being about 42 grams of sugar, you're almost blowing the budget just by one sugar sweetened beverage. So I think it's a good thing to try and find ways to reduce it.
Yeah, I love what you're emphasizing and reducing sugar, and also because that has an impact on mood as well, right? So people that kind of feel a bit down or low energy, oftentimes it's because of that sugar high from choosing the wrong thing for breakfast. And so moving into the day then, okay, let's just imagine I'm a mom, I'm in my car and I'm driving kids and dropping people off. What should I keep in my car as a great snack for my kids and for myself that is going to rev energy and kind of be good for me?
Yeah, so any selection of those fruit that it can survive the lumps and bumps. So, a bag of those little oranges or some apples would be fantastic because they're nice and portable and tidy. But also some whole grain granola bars, something that's got some nuts in it with not a whole lot of sugar. Or if I love to make muffins. So I will bring, if I know that we've got sports after school or something like that, I will bring the homemade muffin and some fruit in the car so that they can have that on the way rather than giving the granola bar. I don't ever bring things like Gatorade. We don't need to have Gatorade. Gatorade is something that's designed to be consumed during exercise, after the first hour of exercise, to provide a source of carbohydrates that are easily absorbed, and fluid, and not have just empty calories there. So for any parents that are giving their kids Gatorade, get rid of it. They just need water.
Okay, yeah. And we probably don't drink enough water to um,
And that's a big
see
step
that.
for one of the steps for eating for energy is staying well hydrated and hydrated throughout the day. So get up and have your first glass of water and try to drink some water. It could be water, sparkling water, herbal tea. Black tea and coffee do count as hydration as well. I don't count alcohol in there, but trying to get at least 1 milliliter for every calorie you consume, which works out to be close to about 2 liters for most people. And if you're more active, then trying to have a little bit more during your workout. So having a couple of big sips every 10 minutes or so during exercise. And when you're 2% dehydrated, you're only working at 90% of your capacity. So that means your performance and strength and endurance is reduced by 10% just when you're only slightly dehydrated, like when you're just feeling thirst. So I
And
do
what
recommend people drink.
and there's an impact to the brain, I think, with not having enough fluid too. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so our brains, every sort of reaction that occurs in our brain happens in an aqueous or a water environment. So when all those neurotransmitters are transmitting, they're trying to pass on these messages through a water environment. And if you're dehydrated, it's all going a lot slower, even for visual acuity. So our vision is going to be compromised when we're dehydrated as well.
Yeah, great. Okay, and so moving into the day, okay, and let's just say I'm working at a desk during the day. What's the best snack to have beside my desk? Are there nuts or anything like that that you would recommend?
Yeah, it depends on what else you've had for your day, but trying to use your snacks as an opportunity to fill in those nutritional gaps. And many people don't have enough fruits and vegetables, so you could have some veggie, like cut up veggies and hummus. That would be your hummus would be your protein food, and then the vegetables would be some fiber and carbs and antioxidants, of course. Or yogurt and berries would be nice and convenient, just in a little container. You don't need a massive yogurt. You could just have a couple of spoonfuls on top of your berries. If you wanted to just have a piece of fruit and say a latte, your latte is going to be your protein in there, and then you've got your fruit as well. Or a homemade muffin and a piece of fruit. It I guess also half your sandwich if you were really hungry, or bring two sandwiches if you're a bigger person and you need to have extra fuel. Having half a sandwich is great. Even a little bowl of cereal and milk with some blueberries on top could be a good snack, depending on how hungry you are. And some people can just handle having 6 almonds and 3 dried apricots, and that's enough to get them through.
Yeah, great. And then moving into lunch, then what would you have for lunch?
My usual lunch is a leftover from dinner. So I love to cook dinner so that I have lunch for the next day. So, for example, today I have leftover trout from dinner and quinoa and Greek salad. And so I'll probably mix the quinoa and the Greek salad together, and have the trout on the side. I might have done, if I had chickpeas also in the fridge, might have added the chickpeas instead of having the trout if I didn't have trout left over. So chickpeas and Greek salad with the quinoa, sort of like a mixed salad, is sort of a convenient thing. I also love to have things like a tomato or butternut squash soup, and I'll throw some lentils in there. Just from the tin, you open up the tin, rinse them off, and then you can add in half a cup of lentils, and acts as your protein. I'm a big salad person, though, for lunches, and I love pre-washed arugula, baby
Mm,
arugula. So I'll do arugula, or kale is another favorite. My favorite kale salad is with sun-dried tomatoes, a little bit of feta, and toasted walnuts and bell peppers. And then you put a homemade dressing on it with a little bit of honey in it. Perfect.
yeah, I love the nuttiness of arugula as well.
Yes.
And so just, the other thing I just wanted you to talk a little bit about For people to have energy, we want to have lots of energy in our life. We've got to get enough sleep, because sleep is when our brain is repairing, and you know, sleep seems to be a chronic problem for many people these days. I don't know if it's partly because of all of the pressures and multi kind of things going on. Typically, for most of us, with with both partners working typically, and kids that are going a million different places. And all of that stays in the brain at night. Now, to get proper sleep, I've heard that what you eat at nighttime really makes a difference. Can you talk about that? What's the best thing to have for dinner? Yeah, so that you want to have a goal of being able to sleep well at that night.
Well, if dinner is really close to bedtime, that will be your challenge, because you're going to be digesting, and that can affect your sleep, especially if dinner had a lot of protein in it. Those amino acids tend to change our sleep patterns. So I would say try and have dinner at least 3 hours before the time that you're planning on sleeping. And then if you do get hungry before bed, just have a little carbohydrate snack. Carbohydrate foods will increase the production of melatonin, which helps you sleep. So having something like a little bit of cereal and milk, or even a glass of milk, which has tryptophan in it, which helps you sleep, or a piece of toast, any of those things, if you're still hungry, or a banana before bed, can help sort of induce that sleep and increase the melatonin production and serotonin, which makes you feel good and euphoric. Um, the other thing is, look at your bedtime routine, and what if going for a workout just before bed, for example, is going to affect your sleep. You're going to have a hard time falling asleep because your body is up and revved. So trying to work out earlier would be good if you're having a hard time falling asleep after your workouts. And then also trying not to have screens. So turn off the television, don't do your email, try not to watch anything or play video games, anything that's too stimulating, because it takes your brain a little bit of time to unwind. So ideally, getting a book and reading for 20 minutes or so before you go to bed can sort of slow your body and your breathing down and get you restful, so that you're ready to then fall asleep. Try not to watch TV in bed as well. That can be a problem. You kind of want to keep your bed as your sanctuary for sleeping, and then do other things elsewhere.
Is there anything about not having dark colored things at night, like, because it's hard to metabolize at night? Like, so if you're going to have a steak, have it at lunchtime rather than at dinner time?
Well, yeah, it's that protein that's the issue. So, not having too much steak or chicken, or not too close to bedtime, and not have large amounts of protein if you're having a hard time sleeping. Keeping it light. So, especially for those people that work shift work, the saying is eat light late at night, because we just don't digest things well when it's late at night. We have more digestive enzymes during the day. So from 7 to 7, we're more inclined to, we're more set up for digestion. And then after 7, we have less digestive enzymes. And so we don't digest things as well.
Okay, great. And so, the other thing I'm curious about is what impact does alcohol have? I know that red wine is good for us. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So 1 glass or 2 glasses of alcohol per day, and if it's red wine, full of resveratrol and antioxidants and polyphenols. So in terms of heart health and antioxidants and blood vessels, 1 glass of wine for women, 1 to 2 for men can be heart healthy. There's no acceptable limit for cancer. So at this point, we know that alcohol is a risk factor for cancer, and the Cancer Agency would rather we don't have any. So that's something else to think of, especially for breast cancer. There is a much higher risk. Breast and colon cancer and esophageal, I think, are all increased risk when you drink a lot of alcohol. Alcohol can affect our sleep, and for some people, it affects them more than others. So you might be able to fall asleep, but when you start going through the withdrawal symptoms later on at night, so say around 2 or 3 in the morning, you might wake up and have a hard time falling back to sleep. And so that means that it's interrupting your REM sleep. So the quality of sleep is down. And people that sleep less than 6 hours a night have an increased risk for obesity. And there's research to support that. So, if you aren't sleeping a lot, finding ways to improve that sleep is a really important part of our health, and an important part of our immune function too, because that is the time when we're, resting so we can heal and recover.
Yeah, great. Good. And so we've just got a couple questions here that have come in. So Mary is asking, what guidance can you offer to support moderation and variety, where friends and family are caught up in the recent trend of food sensitivity? I note people reacting to articles and factoids without education. Limitations can be really strident, yet vary with the situation. There is both health and social aspects to the concern.
It is very challenging when you're working with family and trying to, especially when you're having them over, trying to accommodate everybody's individual eating challenges. I think the big thing is remember that everyone's an individual and try not to get too involved. If it's them that believes really strongly and you don't believe the same thing, well, everyone has a right to their own choices. And so you might choose to steer the conversation away from food rather than getting into it, because if they believe really strongly about what they're doing and it's making them feel better, then all the power to them. There are a lot of food fads out there and it can be very challenging, and for someone like me who has, I have the facts behind it, and so when people say things that just aren't based on fact, I just want to jump in there and tell them no. But instead, trying to find a way for yourself to eat that really is along the lines of what you feel is normal and consistent and doable long term. If you start following these plans that don't allow you to have any gluten, but you're not gluten sensitive, it's a very difficult thing to follow with no real purpose. And so it can be challenging to stick to, and when you can't stick to something, you feel like a failure, and so that's really hard on your emotional side. So I think select your goals based on what is doable for you, and include things that you like, that maybe aren't as good for you on occasion, so you don't feel like you're completely deprived, and really try and fit it all in. So that balance is that 80-20 rule. Really try and get that 80% in there first. I want you to have your sandwich before you have your cookie. And if you still
Yeah.
feel hungry after your sandwich, then go ahead and have the cookie.
I
So
just,
focusing on food first.
yeah, I was just sort of saying that, I just really love it when people start to think of their bodies as their best friend, so that you're actually making choices that are right for you. And also then, just in a situation that you're kind of giving unconditional love for whatever another person is actually deciding that they want to do, so we don't have to convince each other out of what's important for us, but just model it, just model this shift in making the right choices, and making the choice to eat for energy and to make
Exactly.
smart choices like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
everyone's got their own reasons for making those choices. And so if you can just be accepting of everybody, just like everyone has their own religion and their own thoughts about
Yeah,
politics, you don't
yeah.
need to change their mind. You just need to focus on your own good health and model healthy living yourself.
Choose one thing that is really important to you and make that one change, and you're going to
Yes.
have significant rise in your energy. Yeah, and so I've got another question here from Jackie, and she says, how do I prepare healthy, well-balanced meals when I experience ongoing fatigue and variable energy levels?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And Jackie, I think that if you can choose a time of day where you feel the most energized, to make that the time when you cook. And so you may want to invest in a slow cooker and you may want to make your biggest meal or the hot meal of the day at lunch when you have more energy. Cook foods at breakfast or in the morning when you're at home, and have them ready to go so you can just heat them up for dinner, rather than trying to cook that big meal, at dinner time when maybe your energy is the lowest. And then do use some convenient things, the canned beans that are already cooked. You can just rinse them. Frozen vegetables, which are actually quite economical, they're already chopped and washed, and you can just steam those and toss in a little bit of, already crushed garlic and saute it with some soy sauce, and you've got a stir fry ready to go. Pre-washed lettuce, already cooked chicken that you can pull off the bone. Try and make it easy for yourself. Cook once and eat twice. So make it in bulk if you're going to go through the effort to make spaghetti sauce. Make some for another meal as well. And try and freeze things, and even share the efforts by have one family over to your place so that they can have you the next night, kind of thing. Share the responsibility with other people in your family as well if you can delegate.
Yeah, that's such a great idea to cook in advance or cook when you do have more energy. And using a slow cooker, I just love having a slow cooker. Often I'll kind of get that going in the morning before work, and then we'll just have that when I come home. And it's such a treat to come home and it's all done.
Yeah.
So that's such a great idea. Yeah. I just wanted to ask, so Diana, there's just been so much great information, the 7 steps for energy. Can you just go through that and just, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Just highlight that. I know there's more to find out about that.
Sure. And we didn't
But
touch on a couple of them, but the first one is eating more consistently. So maintaining your stable blood sugar levels throughout the day, ensuring that you have a source of protein with your carbohydrates to keep that in balance, getting all of the key nutrients. And we didn't talk a lot about this, but iron is very important in terms of energy, and calcium for your bones as well as for metabolism is very important as well, and your vitamin D that goes along with that. Getting your good fats in there as well. So focusing on the omega-3s and vegetable-based oils, and reducing the saturated fats and trans fats that we know have unhealthy effects on our heart. Staying well hydrated, and paying attention to our hunger and fullness cues, so that we can have balance there, and addressing those other spokes on the wheel of health, which would be things like sleep that we talked about, and being happy, having good relationships, and enjoying work, having passion outside of work, and having happiness and relaxation, managing your stress, and being active.
yeah, that's such a great point. And that's kind of part of the momentum of Shine in 2016, that we're doing this as a collective and being able to kind of connect as a community. And I just want to say again how wonderful it is to have you here today. And I so appreciate that you volunteered to be part of this Shine in 2016 momentum. And I just want to ask you, how do people get a hold of you, Diana, if they want to find out more or work with you?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's eatingforenergy.com. So they can easily go to my website, and then you can email me directly from there. And our office number is on there as well. The office number, if you want to take it down now, is 604-739-3290. That's 604-739-32 739-3290. Did I do that right? 3290, that's right. But eatingforenergy.com is the website, and that is the easiest way to go through. And my email address is diana@eatingforenergy.com.
Yeah, it's really it's just so great to be partnered. We were talking before about how impactful that is to partner through being healthier and having more of a sense of thriving in our lives. We need each other to be able to do that. So having somebody to work with as kind of a coach in that way really, really does make a difference. You can even create a little bit of a coaching impact for yourselves if you're following the series. Find a friend that you want to do this with, or do it with your partner, so that you can actually be motivating each other through this whole series, and in a kind of a whole health kind of way. And so it's a great time to start a journal or something like that. Write down like 1 or 2 things from each one of our speakers, so that you can actually start to incorporate little by little new lifestyle changes that are really going to bring energy to you. It's not hard to have energy. We all want to have the best energy in our lives, so that we can do more, contribute more, and make a difference to our families and friends. And we do that with energy. And now, with all of the scientific research that's available to us, we found out some of those things today, as Diana is telling you a little bit about the research that's been done on rats. So, there's a lot of information about all aspects of whole health. And that is going to come to you through all of the 10 weeks. And so coming up next week, we've got Dr. Leslie Ellis, and she will be sharing with you ways that you can have more focus in your life. So starting first thing in the morning, what you can do differently that is actually going to really help you hone in and focus, so that you actually complete those goals that you really want to manifest in your life. And so that'll be really, I'm looking forward to hearing from her about that. And Diana, I just want to say thank you so much. There's so much rich information today on the information that you've shared about eating for energy, the 7 steps. And I know that I'm going to follow a lot of what you said. I'm going to be really focused on my breakfast and my lunch and my dinner, and just thinking about all the ways that I can start to be more energetic and really share some of that information as well. So I just want to thank you once again for being with us, and thank you for sharing all of this fantastic information.
Well, thank you very much for having me and including me. It was a fun thing to do with you.
Yeah, thanks. And I also want to say thanks to Dress for Success. As you know, probably already, there's an option that you can actually buy the series for $49, and then you have it in your computer to access anytime throughout the next year. And that money, actually, the proceeds for that will go to Dress for Success. And the program Dress for Success really helps women move forward in their lives who are struggling, that want to get a leg up. So they've sponsored people who have come here from difficult times that are now doing quite remarkable things. And later in the series, we'll find out more about how you can live more meaningfully in your life. And that's, one of the ways that we can actually really by contributing to others. And so when you sign up for the series, you'll be contributing to their program, Dress for Success, and help them do more things for more people. So it feels good to do that too. So anyway, that's it for today. I just really hope that you've gleaned, 1 or 2 or 3 things that stand out for you today on the session. And I'll look forward to connecting with you next week. And also just wanted to let you know as well that these sessions are up all week long. So you can, kind of review for free at any time and share them with your friends. And that is true all for each one of the sessions. So you don't have to log in right at 8 o'clock to be able to take part in Shine in 2016. Anyway, this is Joanne Weiler. I'm just, happy that you're here, and look forward to hearing from you. Please feel free to email me if you have any questions. That's jojo@tellus.net. So it's Jojo with an E at the end @tellus.net. Thanks so much. And thanks again. Bye.